Rockies came to town and stole some of the Padres' opening night thunder a night ago. Back with Mark Grant, Matt Vasgersian, Game 2 of the series tonight. And one of the guys that did it to San Diego last night, a guy who's been doing it to the Padres the past couple of years, Matt Holliday.
Well, ever since Matt Holliday has been in the big leagues, Matty, since 2004, his offensive numbers have been skyrocketing. The average, the home runs, the runs batted in. Last year, he was an all-star. Defensively, he's okay. It's okay to maybe give up if you want to give up 2 or 3 runs during the course of a week or two. But Matt Holliday has proven the last couple of years he'll drive in 5, 6, 7, maybe 10, 12 runs during a homestand. So this guy's on the rise. He's going to be an all-star for many, many years to come.
Matt Holliday's homered in 2 straight for the Rockies. 2 home runs for San Diego's Khalil Green to start this early season. Greeny's off to a fantastic start in 2007.
And one of the things for the Padres recently in this short season that they've shown late life, Khalil Green is the one guy that showed some late life and kept them in the ballgame and made it really exciting. 13 career home runs versus the Rocks. I tell you what, folks, as a reliever, when you come in to face a guy like Khalil, you know this in the back of your mind. Don't try to sneak that little piece of cheese on the inner half of the plate. In San Francisco, it was up, it was in, he got his hands through. Khalil Green, you don't know whether he struck out or hit a game-winning home run. Once Khalil Green, we know he's streaky. He needs to get on a hot streak right now, finish out this homestand. That would be nice.
Game 2 starting pitching matchup with San Diego looking to even up the series. The Padres send the veteran David Wells to work tonight. 5 starts with the team last year. He won 1 of them and pitched very well in his 1 playoff start last season. Boomers opposed by 30-year-old right-hander Josh Fogg, who made 4 of his 6 career appearances against San Diego last year. Military opening night downtown. Another big crowd at Petco Park. There's one guy coming in late. Cool night downtown. Welcome back to Petco Park alongside Mark Grant, Matt Vasgersian. The Padres looking for their first home victory of 2007 in Game 2 of the series here tonight with the Colorado Rockies. Military opening night. The Friars dressed in the desert camouflage. But first, let's take a look at Clint Hurdle's Rockies presented by Rico. Move your ideas forward with Rico dependability. Willie Taveras leads off in center field. Second baseman Jamie Carroll idled yesterday, bats in the 2 spot. Atkins, Helton, and Holliday. Plenty of thunder 3 through 5. Jeff Baker makes his first start of the series. He's in right field batting 6th. Tulowitzki, Iannetta, and pitcher Josh Fogg round things out for the Rocks. It is David Wells on the mound for San Diego. The 3-time All-Star entering his 21st season in the big leagues. His line last year with the Padres brought to you by the accident and injury attorneys at Pacific Law Center. Underway downtown tonight. Boomer's first pitch of 2007 is in for a strike.
Well, David Wells is a classic perfect example of a guy getting his work in spring training. The guy's been to spring training for 20-plus years. He had 4 spring training starts. And according to Darren Balsey, he's throwing the ball extremely well. He looks great, in good shape. And that's foul, Matty. Whew. Heart kind of skipped a beat there.
It's okay. It's early, my cat.
But hopefully the camo jersey can disguise some of the David Wells pitches to these Colorado Rockies.
Well, whether it's a jersey or something else, David Wells does a pretty good job disguising his own pitches, getting by on a lot of guile and craftsmanship these days at the age of 43. One of those guys that Darren Balsley told us a couple of years ago could fall out of bed and throw strikes probably at any point in his life, whether he's 23, 43, or maybe even when he's 63. He is such a pleasure to watch pitch. In front of Taveras to start his night, the 0-2 misses down and in. Willie Taveras yesterday in the opener, 0 for 3. He was hit by a pitch and scored a run. Off to a rather slow start to begin his Colorado career, having come over to the Rocks in the offseason from Houston. The 1-2 from Wells just misses the corner. Home plate umpire tonight, Bill Hahn. Jerry Crawford was back there last night.
Matt, you mentioned David Wells can throw strikes at any time of the year. A great location on that backdoor breaking ball. And Rob Bowen behind the dish tonight doing a nice job of trying to get that final strike for Boomer.
So the 2-2 misses low to fill the count. 3 balls and 2 strikes now. Take a look at the Padres defensively behind Wells in just a bit. You already mentioned Rob Bowen behind the plate. Rob making his first start of the year.
Don't be surprised here if Boomer throws some type of off-speed pitch or a breaking ball.
The 3-2. It's a fastball that's hit in the air behind first base. Adrian Gonzalez makes the catch, and Boomer's night has started with an out. Take a look at the Friar defensive schematic brought to you by Ocean's 11 Casino, home of racing for dollars, I-5 and Mission Avenue East in Oceanside. Russell Branyan along with Rob Bowen making his first start at 2007. Buddy Black using this Saturday night before the Easter Sunday day game tomorrow to get starts to a couple of guys who haven't had a lot of opportunities thus far.
I talked to Russell Branyan and Rob Bowen before the game, and they pretty much hit the same spot, same note as far as starting tonight. He said, you know what, they both come to the ballpark with the intention that they are going to be in the lineup, even though they know that that's not the case. For Rob Bowen, he says, I have to come into the clubhouse acting like my name is in the lineup. If I don't start, okay, well then I go about my business, but the same routine each and every day.
2 balls and no strikes to count to the second baseman Jamie Carroll, who sat while Kaz Matsui had a big night in the opener yesterday. Carroll, the Rockies starting second baseman for most of 2006, had a fine year as a 2-0 fastball is poured in for a strike. The big year Carroll had last season gave him a 2-year contract extension through 2008 with a club option for a third. 2-1 is lined to second for Marcus Giles. 2 quick outs for Boomer in the first. I'll bring up the third baseman Garrett Atkins, who was one of a couple of Rockies to come here last year in the first series between the Rocks and Padres and have a huge 3 games. A home run, part of a big night on April 7th of 2006. One of 9 extra base hits in that game by the Rockies.
It's a nice little trifecta they've got working there in Colorado when you talk about Atkins, Helton, and Holiday. 3, 4, and 5.
So David Wells trying to prevent Garrett Atkins from having 2 consecutive big April 7ths here at Petco, and he's off to a good start and accomplishing that. Rockies go away in order. San Diego coming to bat. We go to the bottom half of the first and take a look at Buddy Black's Padre lineup tonight, brought to you by all 6 Massey Nissan locations. Giles, and Gonzalez, Cameron, Green, and Branyan, Sledge, Bowen, and Wells rounded out for San Diego. Marcus Giles is among those with big career numbers against tonight's Colorado starter, right-hander Josh Fogg.
And a pitcher, he is Josh Fogg. He's not going to blow you away by lighting up the radar gun. He is going to be around the plate. He'll give up a lot of hits. I guess the best way to describe it is comfortable at-bats.
Marcus picks on the first pitch, and that one drops in right into no man's land with a trio of defenders looking at each other with their mouths agape.
Now, over the course of a season, big league hitters are going to scald the ball right on the screws, and somebody's going to make a web gem of a play. And then, over the course of a season, it's the Bermuda Triangle right in the middle. Everybody's lost. That's a knock for Marcus Giles. And those help the average out, my friend.
Marcus with a 3-for-5 start to the series as he gets aboard for brother Brian, who had a single yesterday. Both of the Giles brothers, as a matter of fact, have good numbers against Josh Fogg as Brian lines that, or rather flies that into the opposite field for Matt Holliday. Marcus has to hold it first, and that's the first out of the night for Josh Fogg. Take a look at the rest of the Rockies defensively. They're led defensively by Todd Helton, a 3-time Rawlings Gold Glover. But Jamie Carroll at second base really had a fantastic year defensively in 2006. We talked about him not playing in the opener yesterday, but he led all National League second basemen in fielding percentage last season. Rockies defensively brought to you by SDStorage.com, where San Diegans stash their stuff.
I remember last year Clinton Hurdle was talking about Jamie Carroll as one of the better second basemen that he has seen play defensively. It's quite a surprise for the Rocks. You see him giving the signs of the shortstop, Tulowitzki. Did you notice that, Matty? Covering his mouth, open or closed, indicating whether it's a breaking ball or a fastball, so the infielders can get a little bit of a jump. Breaking ball, guy will have a tendency to maybe pull the ball. Fastball, maybe a little bit behind. Open or closed? Open. Let's see if it's a breaking ball.
Almost hits Gonzalez. Does the 1-1 pitch. 2 balls and a strike to Adrian, who was hitless yesterday with a couple of punch-outs. Adrian was among those that did not enjoy the start against Jason Hirsch. The big 6'8" Rocky right-hander was fantastic in his 07 debut last night. Fogg backdoors the breaking ball for a strike, and it's 2-2 now.
I think the breaking ball that David Wells threw earlier in the first inning was a better pitch than that last backdoor breaking ball to Adrian Gonzalez.
The 2-2 with a man off first, misses outside. A full count to Gonzalez, now 3-2. Some more on Josh Fogg. Last year he was 11-9 in his first year as a Rocky. Finished with an ERA in the middle fives. Made 31 starts for Colorado last year. This is his 6th season in the big leagues overall. Giles runs and Gonzalez skies a fly ball into center. Willie Taveras is there. 2 gone in the home first.
Josh Fogg had a decent spring out of all the starters that auditioned for the starting rotation. He was probably one of the guys that had the better ones. And talking to some people before the game, he's the type of pitcher to where second, third time around, if they can get 6 innings out of Fogg, they'll be really happy.
Originally a 3rd-round draft choice by the White Sox back in '98. Has been property of the White Sox and Pirates prior to becoming a Rocky last year. He starts Mike Cameron with a pitch off the corner. Ball and no strikes to Mike. Cameron hitless yesterday. He was hit by a pitch. 1-1.
You know what makes the camouflage jerseys?
What's that?
The helmets. I like that.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It brings out the green.
What are you, Mr. Blackwell now? There's a base hit for Cameron. Marcus will wrap around to third. San Diego with runners at the corners and 2 away.
There's that aggressiveness from Marcus Giles. It's out of the box, taking a hard turnaround first. A ball that was not scalded up the center of the diamond, and Marcus can read that ball off the bat with the best of them. So what does he do? He takes third base. Michael fights that one off. Great hustle by Marcus. He can scoot a little bit now.
Well, San Diego already having more success against Josh Fogg than they had through 4, 5, 6 innings against Hirsch last night. The Pods had runners in scoring position in only 1 inning a night ago. Table set for Khalil Green, the hottest San Diego hitter to start the season. 3 for 4, a 2-run home run yesterday. Look at the numbers for Green. He picked up right where he left off in the Cactus League. Let's take you back to the series opener. Greeny had the big series against San Francisco, and he licked his chops yesterday knowing the Rockies were coming to town. As we profiled when we went on the air, he has been a perennial Rocky killer. Not on this occasion, however. Jamie Carroll gets back this time to make the play, and San Diego strands a pair in the first. Top half of the second inning, no score early tonight. Back with Mark Grant, Matt Vasgersian, David Wells back to work. He got through the Rockies in order to start his first inning tonight, and Todd Helton opens the second for the Rockies. Helton, Holiday, and Baker for Colorado. A rare hitless night in San Diego for Todd Helton yesterday. He was 0 for 3. He did walk and score a run, but this is a guy who has annually done great things for his team in this ballpark. 2 balls and no strikes. The count to Todd Helton.
And also, Matt, he's one of those guys, and I've said it for many years, it doesn't matter if he goes 0 for 8, 0 for 10. That 11th at-bat is one that can really hurt you. He takes every at-bat like it's his last. He kind of reminds me of a Keith Hernandez. Never wasted an at-bat, no matter what the circumstances were.
Yeah, but he hasn't done a tired commercial. Rejected. It's not a bad path to go along, though. Keith Hernandez has probably accomplished just as much after baseball as he did on the field. When you're in a Seinfeld episode, you've gotten something done with your life. Helton lines that one past Branyan into the opposite field. He's going to try for second. Sledges up, throwing ball there, and plenty of time. Not even close.
Well, let's take a look at the Carlos Jr. pitch track. 2 breaking balls to start him off. A little slider, curveball missing inside. Fastball on the outer half, trying to speed him up a little bit. Another breaking ball, and then the high fastball in. And like I said, Matty, Todd Helton's a guy who can hurt you. Well, he proved to himself right there. He's not going to try to take an extra base. Termel Sledge, great execution on the part of the defense.
There's Matt Holliday now as we take a look at Termel Sledge. Putting a perfect one hopper down to Marcus Giles, and as you can see, boy, the ball was there in plenty of time. 0-1 pitch misses inside to Matt Holliday. 1 ball and 1 strike to Holliday. Boy, Matt Holliday off to a great start for the Rockies. 2 for 4 in the opener yesterday as Wells pours his strike through on 1-1. A ball and 2 strikes now. Matt Holliday's homered in 2 straight. See Bowen crowd him here on 1 and 2. And David tucks it in too tight. 2 balls and 2 strikes. .230 career victories. Fly ball into the opposite field. Giles backing up on it to make the play. So 2 gone.
You mentioned those 230 career wins?
230.
That's a nice little career in the big leagues, huh? A lot of teams, but one thing for sure, this guy, I think he could pitch blindfolded. Talk about hitting spots. And you and I mentioned it in spring training, Matty. Remember we had the TV game when Boomer was out there pitching? He looked like he was in decent shape, too. Dropped a few LBs. Darren Balsley's a big fan of his.
2 balls and no strikes. The count to Jeff Baker. Well, you might wonder, David Wells at the age of 43, and given full health this year, Boomer hopes to make anywhere between 28 and 32 starts. He's got a shot at a major league record, and that is wins by a 43-year-old pitcher. It's going to take a heck of a season. Jack Quinn of the 1928 Philadelphia Athletics won 18 games at the age of 43. That's out to right field. Giles on the move and putting it away in Cox Alley. 6 up, 6 down against David Wells tonight. No score early tonight downtown. Bottom half of the 2nd inning. Rockies and Padres 0-0 on this military opening night at Petco Park. Russell Branyan leads things off in the San Diego second. The 6, 7, 8 batters. Branyan, Sledge, and Bowen against Josh Fogg. Well, when we got to the ballpark this afternoon and looked up at Buddy Black's lineup card in the home clubhouse, you noticed Branyan out there. You noticed Bowen out there. And not only did Buddy want to get a couple of guys starts here on Game 5 of the season, he picked a pretty good time to do it. Branyan, a left-handed hitter. Bowen, the switch-hitting catcher. Left-handed hitters have historically had much more success against Josh Fogg. Branyan taps that pitch to second. Carroll throws him out. One away for one of yesterday's top performers. Speaking of left-handed power, secret pop. Termel Sledge, his first of the year, a 5th-inning shot against Jason Hirsch.
You know, Matt, you mentioned the left-handed hitting numbers off of the righty Josh Fogg, and as I mentioned before, Fogg really doesn't have that nasty pitch, like, you know, the hard splitter, the Trevor Hoffman changeup, the 95-mile-an-hour heater. As I mentioned, you know, there are some guys out there that are just comfortable at bats. That's not taking anything away from Josh Fogg because the guy can pitch. He just tries to keep guys off balance. He cuts it. He slides it. He'll change it. Works quickly. Good guy to have in the staff.
And excuse me, check swing bouncer for Atkins, and 2 away for Fogg in the second. Well, the Rockies have struggled the last handful of years. Opponent's history brought to you by Heineken. It's all about the beer. A losing record in each of their last 6 seasons. The last winning season, just 2 games over 500 in 2000. And although Clint Hurdle has never had a winning season as manager of the Rockies, that did not stop management from extending not only his contract, but that of general manager Dan O'Dowd by another 2 years.
You want to hear another little nugget? Those last 6 seasons, the Rockies, 100 collectively, 110 games below 500.
Boy. It was written in previewing this series as Rob Bowen stands in with a 1-1 count in a couple of places. Scott Miller, our friend and colleague at CBSSportsline.com, very fine baseball writer, and Chris Jenkins of the UT. They both made pretty good points this week in talking about the Rockies. At what point does it turn around? 2-1 to Bowen is lined into center field. That soft liner hangs for Taveras. We'll table that discussion and continue as we continue heading to the top of the third. A reminder, folks, you can bring your family or friends to any Saturday or Sunday non-premium home game for Coca-Cola Family and Friends Weekends. 4 upper reserve tickets, 4 hot dogs, and 4 Cokes for just $50. More information at Padres.com. David Wells has allowed just a hit in his 2 innings of work so far tonight. And that base runner was quickly neutralized, and Termel Sledge threw out Todd Helton trying to stretch a single into a double last inning. There's Troy Tulowitzki leading things off in the visitors' third as he singles into right, snapping an 0 for 7. Well, between Greg Maddux and David Wells, you're talking about some 80-plus years of pitching and almost 700 victories. What does the younger guy think about the elder statesman?
David Wells has always been one of the best players in baseball. You know, he's one of those guys that just keeps on going. Yeah, great attitude, great mentality for the game, very good teammate, and yeah, that's why he's able to play for as long as he has.
563 victories combined. I was a little generous in going up to 800 there, but you get the point.
I think Greg Maddux touched on a point as far as David Wells' attitude. I mean, the guy knows that he's blessed with athletic ability. And that's the way David Wells goes about his business. He has fun, and it's fun to be around him. And he's a competitor. You don't get this far in Major League Baseball without being talented and having that competitive nature. It's something that is so hard to let go of as a professional athlete. There was speculation last year that David Wells was going to retire. 06, last line on the baseball card. Well, It's tough to give that up.
2 balls and no strikes. Well, one right-handed, one left-handed, but both of them have been control artists over the years. Since 1950, they both rank historically among the pitchers with the fewest walks per 9 for their career.
Pretty good company.
You bet. 3 balls and no strikes. The count to the catcher, Chris Iannetta, batting with the leadoff hitter aboard, nobody out. And Iannetta takes a strike, 3-1. You know, you touched on something there that I think is oftentimes glossed over when people talk about David Wells. He is a competitor. He does want to win.
In anything.
And there seems to be this mistaken perception about David out there that, you know, because he has that reputation as kind of a carefree guy and a free spirit off the field, he really doesn't care what happens when he gets out there. That could not be farther from the truth. The Boston media in particular, as ravenous as they are, really played to that last year, especially since David spent some time on the disabled list as a Red Sox. A full count to Iannetta now, 3-2 after Wells was behind 3-0.
Throw over. Nope. Well, big hole on that right side, and David Wells, as we just mentioned, doesn't walk many batters. See if Clint Hurdle puts something on here.
Got the pitcher spot due up next, and then the top of the order for the Rockies. Nobody out. See Wells shake off Bowen once. Opponents have run successfully against the Padres to start the season. It's way too early to try to tell you why. For various factors, of course, but opposing base runners are a perfect 6 for 6, stealing bases against the Pods this year. It's really been 2 guys. Dave Roberts of the Giants, he was a problem. And Kazuo Matsui last night. A long check of the runner. Boomer comes home again, and once again Iannetta fouls it away.
And those are the guys who are supposed to run, Matty. Those are the guys who are going to have, you know, 30, 40 plus stolen bases over the course of the year. There's Matsui watching a big league ball game from the bench.
The 9th pitch of the at-bat will be on its way to Chris Iannetta here. I, for one, was rather glad to see Kazuo Matsui not starting tonight. That's to take nothing away from Jamie Carroll.
I know where you're going, though.
Ball 4. A rare walk by David Wells. Runners at first and second. Boomer displeased. Whether it's with himself or the zone remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think David Wells is upset with himself because that pitch missed way down in the zone. And he has the capability of throwing a quality pitch. He wanted the outside part of the plate, and this one well out of the strike zone.
Well, now you're set up for a near certainty because Josh Fogg is one of the better sacrifice bunt artists among major league pitchers. The Rocky right-hander last year laid down 15 sacrifice bunts. That was the 5th highest total in baseball last season. Corners come in for San Diego. Tulowitzki at second, Iannetta the runner at first.
Now, the ideal situation here, you want the ball bunted hard at somebody so they can get the lead runner, but get an out in this situation. You don't want to prevent a big inning.
Fogg gives it up early and takes strike 1.
Got the good technique. You see that? Barrel of the bat pointed out in front, trying to keep that barrel head above the handle, hit down on the baseball, and deaden it perfectly to advance those runners.
Gets it down on 0-1. Boomer to first. So there you have it. Tulowitzki and Iannetta move into scoring position on out number 1.
There are guys out there who look good as far as technique and can't execute. Josh Fogg covers both. Looking good, technique. Forcing himself to keep that barrel up and hitting the top half of the baseball. No chance at third. Get the sure out. When in doubt,
Put it out.
get the out.
Oh, that's poker. Willie Taveras pops in the left center, into left field rather, for Sledge. Thank you very much. Runners at second and third, one away. And Taveras pops harmlessly into left field.
I'm kind of puzzled. David Wells walked Chris Iannetta a long at bat. Josh Fogg got the bunt down. You know, top of the order. Why not try to make the starting pitcher work a little bit? Get the pitch count up. Not really a good Willie Taveras swing, also kind of out in front. So nice job by David Wells.
Hoomer can get out of the jam now against Jamie Carroll. Runners at second and third, 2 away. Strike to Jamie Carroll, 0-1. Into center field. Carroll cashes in. Tulowitzki scores. Cameron throwing home on Iannetta. That's cut off. Now they've got Carroll in a rundown. Giles will apply the tag to retire the side. Both runs score, however, as Jamie Carroll's 2-out, 2-run RBI knock have given the Rockies a 2-0 lead. Series with the Rockies continues. A 1:05 start tomorrow. Brian Giles is along to tell us what's happening at Petco Park.
Hey kids, see us take on the Rockies April 8th at 1:05 and take home your own Padre foot bag.
All kids 14 and younger get a Padres foot bag for kids presented by North Island Credit Union. Get your tickets at Padres.com.
Is that a hacky sack? I didn't know they were called foot bags. Oh, so hacky sack. I'm learning Nick Davis. Nick, by the way, if I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Nick Davis is my lifeline. This guy is just unbelievable.
Boomer lines it to first. Squared up on that pretty nice, but Helton gathers it in.
Should I finish my thought?
Sure. It was
Hacky sack is a brand name like Thermos and Kleenex. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, hey, hand me that thermos. Well, it's not actually a thermos. Thermos is a brand name. Hey, you got a Kleenex, got a runny nose. It's not actually a Kleenex. Kleenex is a brand name. You need a tissue, or like you would say, a tissue.
Folks, that's the kind of hardcore baseball analysis that we've been doing for years here. Marcus Giles flies to center for Willie Taveras. 6 in a row retired by Josh Fogg.
It's all about keeping him off balance and not hitting the sweet spot. Although, remember the dunker that Marcus Giles had? That's a knock, right? Should have been caught. How about David Wells hitting the ball squarely, but right at the first baseman. But Josh Fogg is staying out of that sweet spot for the Padres bats.
Brian Giles now. We mentioned Brian's good historical line against Josh Fogg earlier. 6 for 11 over the years with a couple of home runs. Josh Fogg last year made his first start of 2006 against the Padres here at Petco Park. He went 6 innings in a 10-4 Rockies win. Into right field. And that dumps in front of Baker. A 2-out single for Brian Giles. He continues to swing it well against Josh Fogg.
See the Carl's Jr. pitch track? That's where Josh Fogg wants to stay out of. Up and away. Good extension by Brian Giles, because when you throw 85, 87, you're going to get hurt up there. If you throw 95, 96 and throw up there, they're going to either swing through it or foul it back.
Here's Gonzalez now. Adrian Sitless in the series 0 for 5 so far. Mike Cameron on deck with 2 gone. 3 singles so far tonight for San Diego. To 2-0 now. A part of Josh Fogg's success last year, again an 11-game winner, came with the fact that the Rockies seemed to score a lot on the every fifth night that he was on the mound. He averaged 6.5 runs of support per 9 innings last year. Only the Mets' Steve Traxel got more runs in support of his starts.
Tell you what, that makes pitching fun. Going out there with a lead, getting 6 and a hay a game.
A strike to Adrian, 3-1 now. We talk about it all the time. There's one guy in every staff that gets a lot of runs.
Absolutely.
There seems to be one guy in every staff that doesn't get a lot of runs. Full count now and a good changeup by Fogg that time.
Oh, we saw a lot of that last night, didn't we? Jason Hirsch, fastball count, the old parachute ball, way out in front of it. And great location, too. If they make contact there in that situation, they're going to beat it into the ground.
Giles runs on 3-2, and Adrian lines it into right field. A base hit. Giles to third base easily. And the Padres have something going here in the third.
Well, you see a lot of pitches during the at-bat. You get a chance to see what Josh Fogg has to offer. Mentioned it earlier. The second time around, the third time around might be a different story. After the 3-1 changeup to make it full count, looks like Josh Fogg just tried to locate a sinker. And Adrian stayed on it nicely.
Mike Cameron now, his first inning single tonight was his first hit against Josh Fogg in 8 previous attempts. So now checking it in a 1-for-9 against the Rocky right-hander. Mike has an opportunity here with runners at the corners and 2 away. When you break down Mike Cameron by the pitch, his best success in 2006 came against fastballs, and there's nothing unusual or uncommon about that. There was quite a drop-off, however, between his 280+ against fastballs and the 165 he hit against sliders. Laid off a breaking ball that time. It's 1-1. On the ground to third, Atkins has it. Cameron thrown out, and Fogg gets out of the mini jam in the third. Still 2-0 Rockies. Rockies on top of the Padres 2-0 through 3 innings. Back with Mark Grant, Matt Vasgersian, top of the 4th. Got to have some skills. Keep the baby happy. Make sure you're keeping your own stomach happy. He's doing a nice job. David Wells back to work in the 4th. Colorado got their 2, courtesy of Jamie Carroll's 2-run 2-out single last inning. And here in the 4th, it'll be Atkins, Helton, and Holiday for Colorado. One ball and 1 strike to count to Garrett Atkins. Atkins has hit in 3 straight after going hitless on opening day. Behind here 1-2. Hey, you know our guy out there in right field, Mudcat, that sits above the scoreboard, the guy that hangs the K signs?
Yeah.
He's got something new for us in 2007, apparently. To 2-2 now. He's hanging cues out there. which, you know, if you think about your baseball vernacular, Q, you know.
Quick out. Makes sense. I mean, we know what the K's stand for, right?
This will not count as a Q per se, as Khalil Green throws out Garrett Atkins on the 5th pitch of the at-bat. A Q is displayed in right field for an at-bat that lasts 3 pitches or shorter.
Nice.
How about the Aflac trivia question? Q question. Name the 2 Rockies who have won National League batting titles. Here's Todd Helton on Q, if you will.
I think we'll have to watch our K's and Q's this year.
So I guess they're changing their tune out there in right field. This is what it's all about. They're not looking for, you know, 7-8 pitch punch-outs anymore in right. They want to make sure they can get home at a decent hour. They eschew the K, and they're now about the Q. 2 balls and a strike to count to Todd Helton. Breaking ball into right field for Giles, and 2 gone. Score out the goatees, Mudcat. What do you think?
Todd Helton I really like because it's nice and full, almost Doug Brocail-like. Doug Brocail's got a solid one, and David Wells, you know, 43 years old. I don't think he's got a just for men contract, but it's looking still pretty nice.
Here is the freshly shaven Matt Holliday. Freshly shorn. 0-1 to Holliday. He flied to right in his first try tonight.
Oh my gosh.
Talk about just for men. Go get a box.
They could pass for brothers, don't you think?
Our own John Bruno. The fly ball into left. Sledge started back. The quickest of 1, 2, 3 fourths by the goateed left-hander David Wells. Still 2-0 Rockies. 2-0 Colorado. We go to the bottom half of inning number 4. Khalil Green leads it off for San Diego. And Greeny takes a strike. Had a nice chat today with Merv Rettenmund about Khalil Green's hot start. And you just have to look at the numbers to know that a batting coach would be thrilled with what's happening with a guy. A couple of home runs, 8 for 17 to start the year. Greeny's doing something different this year. He's not taking live BP on the field. He'll take all of his swings inside in the cage. He prefers taking swings against the machine, dialed up at like next to max velocity. They crank the thing up. Like these amps go to 10, these amps go to 11. You know, that kind of thing.
Right.
He feels like he's more prepared to hit during the game if he hits inside on the machine. It's just a personal decision. Here's the 2-2 home to Khalil. Popped him up. Jammed him. That's a good pitch. And Atkins makes the catch. Let's go back to the Aflac trivia question. Earlier we queried, name the 2 Rockies who've won National League batting titles. It's a total of 4 seasons, but 3 guys. 2 guys, rather. Larry Walker did it 3 times. Todd Helton won 1. Todd Helton might have won a second had the Padres not intentionally walked him in his final at-bat of the season a few years ago at Qualcomm Stadium.
I remember that. It was Todd Helton and Albert Pujols going for the crown.
Yep. He was not pleased about that.
No.
And I think we will all have probably reacted the same way. Bruce Bochy at the time didn't realize what was at stake. And Boach said later he would not have intentionally walked Helton had he realized what was going on in the bigger picture. He was just worried about trying to win the game on that day.
It was a matter of percentage points, wasn't it? That batting title?
A base hit would have won him the batting title there. 1-1 to Russell Branyan, batting with one away, and the base is empty here. I want to get back to Greeny not taking swings out on the field for live BP. Again, it's a personal preference thing. But as you know, of course, you know better than anybody, throwing BP occasionally for the team. A lot of guys like to have someone go out there, throw breaking balls, hit a specific spot.
I was just going to elaborate on that because, you think of it logically. If you're in the cage and you throw a machine, the machine is pretty consistent to throw the ball.
Branyan with some opposite field power. Gone. Boy, does that remind you of the home run Ryan Klesko hit here on the first ever Sunday at Petco Park?
Off of Matt Manti.
Right into the corner. Russell's first of the year. It's 2-1 Rockies.
Well, going deeper into the count, 2-2. Here's the 2-2 pitch. And he went out and got that one a little bit, too. Look at the extension.
How strong is that guy?
Oh. Nice talk, Russ.
His lower half was planted, and that's all wrists.
You're right, Matty. That was arms, wrists, upper body. Let's watch it again. Watch from the belt up. His legs are pretty much okay stationary. Then he just throws the hands going the opposite way. I'm sure Tony Gwynn sitting at home would like that. Throwing the hands. I wonder if Tony thought that was a cookie. Outer half.
Let's face it. Everything was a cookie to him.
Yeah.
Russell Branyan in the military uni. He has like a G.I. Joe look about him now, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Ball and 2 strikes to Termel Sledge.
Looks like he can go up to somebody right now and say, hey, drop and give me 20.
I can't hear you. Gunnery Sergeant Russell S. Branyan. I just made up the S. Just sounded good.
Really good.
What is his middle name?
I don't know.
We should have looked that up before we threw that out there. Hey, Sledgy. Termel Sledge singles after the Branyan dinger.
Hits in bunches, huh? In the third inning, back-to-back singles, but nothing going for San Diego. The big shot off the bat of Russell Branyan, and then way out in front. Looked like he was fooled a little bit, but stayed back just enough to service that one for a safety in the center field.
Here's Rob Bowen now. Mike Branyan making his first start of 2007. Rob lined to center in his first at-bat tonight. This is bounced to Helton. He'll get the one out at first base. Sledge to second. Russell O. Branyan, Mudcat.
Got it. Do we know what the O stands for?
Oh, my heavens, he hit that a long way.
Nice.
Here's Boomer now, a chance to help himself. Wells lined to Helton in his first at-bat. That slap to shortstop. Tulowitzki glides to his left and throws out Boomer to retire the side. San Diego cuts the Rockies' lead in half, however, on Russell Branyan's first of the year. Some kind of strong, that fella. Been a fun ball game to watch through 4. Matt Vasgersian back with Mark Grant, your Viejas mid-game recap. 2-1 Rockies. We head to the top of the 5th inning. Jeff Baker leads things off for Colorado. But we saw a replay of Brannon's home run going to break, and it looked like Russell knew he had it.
Yep.
As soon as he made contact.
Matt, you made a great reference to Russell Brannon, a nice stat in spring training. Remember when we talked about hitters where it's either one or two things that they do during an at-bat? Well, we talked about Russell Brannon either striking out, walking, or hitting a home run.
Yeah.
That's the strength, I think, of having Russell Brannon on the bench and the spot start every once in a while. You come off the bench and you've got that potential, that excitement. Sure, he might strike out at times, but you know what? To put a pop in one in opposite field the way he did, that strikes fear, I think, into a lot of pitchers.
Makes a nice play at the line to take one away from Jeff Baker.
Well, how many times do you see a guy hit a home run and then make a nice play the next time out?
As cliched as that is, it's no less true. So one gone, and now it's Tulowitzki. Yeah, those were numbers we were talking about out of the new edition of the Baseball Prospectus, the 3 true outcomes. And Russell Brannon last year either walked, struck out, or homered in over half of his at-bats. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's either outhouse or penthouse.
And it's okay to have a couple guys on your roster that way.
Absolutely.
0-2 the count to Troy Tulowitzki.
Remember Dave Kingman?
Rob Deere. Curveball misses outside. Troy Tulowitzki is a dirtbag. Long Beach State guy. A program that has had a pretty good history in putting shortstops in the major leagues. Oakland's Bobby Crosby, ex-Padre Chris Gomez, former dirtbag shortstops. Two balls and 2 strikes, the count to Tulowitzki. Full count now. Troy Tulowitzki was signed by Rockies scout Todd Blyleven, the son of the Dutchman, our friend Bert Blyleven. Make sure Bert knows he's live. A chopper to shortstop. Brannon picks this one. The Russell Brannon show in the middle innings tonight.
I remember seeing Russell Brannon going out early batting practice last year and working on this specific play. Always 2 sides to a play, Matty, right? Glove throw, but watch Adrian Gonzalez. We've seen him so many times last year. The magic footwork. Ball's on the other side, foul territory, and look at him just make that little step there to keep the foot on the bag.
Chris Iannetta now. He walked in his first plate appearance tonight.
If you get it within Adrian Gonzalez's wingspan, you're pretty much good to go.
Yeah. Started him with a 73-mile-an-hour changeup. That was an 84-mile-an-hour fastball. And Iannetta is behind 0-2.
How about putting up a cue right here? Huh? Third pitch here. Quick out.
Boomer hasn't struck anybody out tonight, but there are a handful of cues hanging in right field. Quick outs. 3 pitches or fewer. Oh, just missed with a fastball. Dodgers and Rockies, the only late game tonight in the National League. You might have seen earlier, LA beat the Giants again today. It's going to roll foul. Bruce Bochy 1-4 as Giant manager to begin his San Francisco tenure. LA looks for the sweep tomorrow in that series finale. Oakland and Anaheim are already in the 8th inning tonight. How can that be?
Was an earlier start, maybe 6:05.
Two is swung on and missed. Boomer's first strikeout of the ball game, 6 in a row, retired by David Wells. Alongside the veteran right-hander Mark Grant, Matt Vasgersian back from Petco Park as Marcus Giles leads things off in the home 5th. Well, Marcus Giles collected on his first Padre home run as a part of the inaugural series in San Francisco. That is one of the hardest hit balls we've seen in that ballpark in a long time.
Well, look at the bat speed he generates. My goodness. Even when a guy like that gets jammed, there's a chance that ball is going to, if the ball's elevated, get a chance to get over the infielders' heads to drop in for a base hit. That's been I was not a hitter. I know that I don't have to tell that to anybody, but my philosophy is grip it and rip it under control. Run into one, it's going to go.
Ball and 2 strikes, the count to Marcus Giles. Go back a few months into the offseason when it was all just speculation as to how Buddy Black was going to line up his order. And there were some different choices for leading off. Even after Marcus Giles was signed, it wasn't a guarantee he was going to lead off. He's hit by the pitch here. And he gets aboard the hard way to start the bottom of the 5th. One of the candidates for leadoff hitter was his brother Brian, who will dig in now with a man aboard. But when you look at what Brian's done the past couple of years, he really makes for an ideal number 2 hitter. Here's one of the reasons we say that. Last year, only Scott Hatteberg made contact with a higher percentage of his swings. Brian sends that into the opposite field. Taveras makes the catch, and there's one gone in the last of the 5th.
Well, when I think of Brian Giles in the number 2 spot, I think even if he's behind 0-2, he has the capability of fouling off some pitches to see more pitches during the at-bat. Then a pitcher will get a little too fine. Next thing you know, it's 1-2. Next thing you know, he'll flip up a breaking ball for a ball. Next thing it's 2-2, and then the advantage starts to go back to Brian Giles. Of course, we know that he can lead the league in walks also.
Of course, after we get through with all that, he swings and flies out on the first pitch of the at-bat. A rather atypical Giles at-bat, and here's Gonzalez now. Adrian has singled and flied to center. 1 out, 1 on, last of the 5th. The Rockies trying to win this one tonight to guarantee a winning series. Making just the second time that Colorado has taken their first 2 series to open a year. They did it back in '95 when they won their first 3 series en route to winning the National League wild card that year. So Colorado trying to make some franchise history. Not the kind of headline grabbing stuff that's going to appear in the New York Times, but certainly a step in the right direction for them. Marcus running, throw to second is high, a stolen base for Marcus Giles. The Padres' first stolen base of the year.
Get in a scoring position with 1 out. Take your chances. A pretty good pitch for Iannetta. But a throw that is high. You know, if that throw is on the money, there's a good chance that Marcus Giles in a scoring position.
Took a while, but that skunks out of the box in the 5th game of the season. Two-1 to Adrian, misses off the corner, 3 balls and a strike.
A lot of off-speed stuff from Fogg to the lefty Gonzalez, and right after that pitch, Iannetta, the catcher, Chris Iannetta, indicated to stay on top of that changeup. Sometimes pitchers will have a tendency to work underneath, drop the elbow, and that'll make the changeup float up and away. Changeup again with the wiggle, maybe sinker. Wow, a series of signs with the runner on second.
Adrian sends a high, deep drive into the opposite field. Holiday back and makes the catch at the wall. Missed it by that much.
Seems like if you're going to hit the ball to the opposite field, if you're a left-handed hitter, you got to go the Russell Branyan route and hit it more on the line. Adrian underneath it just a tad, as you mentioned, Manny, that much between an F7 and an HR.
So here's Cameron now with a runner at second base and 2 gone. Adrian Gonzalez has come closer than anybody in this series to drawing a walk. It's just rather amazing that Rocky pitchers have not issued a walk in the last 2.5 games. Their series finale with the Diamondbacks, no walks yesterday, and no walks tonight. This is just the second time in franchise history that the Rockies have gone consecutive games without issuing a walk. Can you believe that?
That's quite a stat. And when I think of that, I think of being a pitching coach. I think of Bob Apodaca maybe telling their pitchers, you know, be aggressive in the zone. Sure, we're going to give up hits, but you know what? It seems like a simple philosophy to let your defense work for you. If I were a pitching coach, I'd rather see a guy give up 3 straight knocks than a walk to load the bases. Take your chances by having him put the ball in play.
Cameron grounds that to third. Atkins makes a good play, throws him out, and retires the side. We played 5 complete downtown tonight. The Rockies still lead it 2-1. Two to 1 Colorado, top half of the 6th inning. David Wells back to work for San Diego. Another big house on this first Saturday on the home schedule. Josh Fogg leads things off for Colorado. Fogg in the top of the order guys, Taveras and Carroll. Josh Fogg laid down a very pretty sacrifice bunt in his first at-bat. That moved runners to second and third with 1 away. And Wells looked like he was going to get out of the jam. But with 2 gone, Jamie Carroll singled both of the runners home. A better bunter than he is a hitter, as you can tell, and Fogg's behind 0-2. Looks like he's having a laugh over that last foul ball. I like watching a guy that can laugh at himself occasionally, right?
I think you're going to see another breaking ball right here. Nope. Little cutter, though. Slider.
Struck him out. Back-to-back strikeouts for Wells dating back to the 5th. We'll date you back to 2004. April 8th, almost 3 years ago to the day, David Wells got the first ever Padres start in Petco Park history. He went 7 innings against the Giants, did not allow a run, only 4 hits, and did not get a decision in an extra innings San Diego win.
Boy, does it seem like that long ago. Sean Burrow started at third base and Phil Nevin was at first.
Bunting, Taveras is aboard. Man, can he run. That is Willie Taveras' specialty. 115 infield hits over the last 2 years to lead Major League Baseball.
And you know what's amazing? It's from the right side. You know, usually you think about guys throughout the course of history in Major League Baseball, left-handed leadoff guys like a Brett Butler going back. Ron Hesse, not a fan, by the way. But Willie Taveras from the right side with the drag bunt.
That's one of the funniest stories I've ever heard. Jamie Carroll now with a runner aboard and 1 gone. Ron Hasse and and Brett Butler were teammates in Cleveland. This had to have been early 80s. And after a game in which Brett Butler had excelled, he told reporters around his locker that, you know, he was great. And it was I, me, I did this, I like to do this. So the next morning when the paper came out, Ron Hasse got to the clubhouse early, took a copy of the article, and with a highlighter circled every time Brett Butler had said I or me, hung it on his locker, and captioned it with his own creative imagination. And decorum prevents us from telling you what that is. Just to make the point that, you know what, it's not all about you, fella. Nothing in one. The count to Jamie Carroll. 1 out, 1 on here, top of the 6th.
A couple of nice moves from David Wells over to first base to keep Tavares close. Still out to a pretty decent lead.
And getting back to what you mentioned earlier when we watched that footage of David in 2004, it really doesn't seem like that long ago. It wasn't. It was 2004. It's only, you know, 3 years ago. Sean Burroughs, Phil Nevin. Guys that aren't around anymore. Wells checking Tavares again. He stays put, and Boomer just misses to Carroll. Bullpen activity behind David for the first time tonight. Doug Brocail. A long look at Tavares, and he checks him at first. At least 33 stolen bases in each of his last couple of seasons. Willie Tavares plans to single-handedly change the Rockies' running game. In both of those seasons where Tavares has stolen 30-plus, not a single Rocky had even 15 steals in either one of those years. There he goes. Swing and a miss. Throw down to second base. Is in time to get him. Strike him out, throw him out, and the Rockies are done in the 6th. The first caught stealing this year by Padre catching, and it's a big one. It keeps San Diego down by just a run. Fans, the Padres fan-designed T-shirt contest is a contest where your winning design can actually appear on a T-shirt that will be given out to all fans on August 31st. Go to Padres.com, learn how you can submit your T-shirt design today. Khalil Green leads things off in the home 6th. Quickly behind 0-2. Green, Branyan, and Sledge in the Padres' 6th inning. Khalil with a couple of infield pops tonight. Came up with a big fly yesterday. This was in the bottom of the 9th with San Diego down 3. A 2-run shot against Brian Fuentes. Khalil Green is now 6 for 10 with 3 dingers against the Rockies closer. One and two.
You know, you mentioned that story about Greeny earlier, Matty, about hitting in the cage. You know who else does that in Major League Baseball? Manny Ramirez. Does not take live BP because his philosophy is, I want to get my swing down to where I know it's good. I don't want to get into this home run derby type deal during batting practice. A lot of guys like to see the ball fly out of the ballpark, you know, swing from you know where.
Yeah.
Where it messes up the swing. You stay in the cage. If you hit one, you know you hit it well. It's going to just die in the net, right? That's the philosophy of Manny Ramirez.
I would imagine there's probably some element to that in play for Greeny as well. Got him on a slider. One away to start the 6th inning. Russell Branyan in his last at-bat came up with tonight's Valley View Casino colossal hit of the game. His first of the year. Oppo shot. It's been all the Padres offense so far tonight. 0-1 the count here to Russell Branyan. Another thing that Khalil Green does when he takes his swings in the cage, and Merv was talking about this today, he puts the weighted end, the donut, on his bat and still dials up the the pitching machine at full volume, blast it to 11, and takes full rips with the weighted bat.
I remember Edgar Martinez used to do that in live batting practice. Remember seeing him in interleague play?
Yeah. They have the standard donut, the ring, and then they've got like a collar that can go on the bat, and Greeny used to take swings with that, but he didn't like what would happen when he'd make contact, because it'll has a weird feel and a weird noise to it, so we just put the regular donuts back on. I mean, fans, you look at Khalil Green, and because he wears the baggy uniform, he's put together now. I mean, Greeny's ripped.
Yeah, he is. Don't let the baggy uniform fool you.
He's a strong kid.
In the baggy sleeves, too.
2-2 pitch is swung on and missed, and Josh Fogg has struck out 2 in a row to open the 6th. Both Fogg and Wells went the first 4+ without a single strikeout, yet both of them have dialed a couple up here. Wells has struck out 3 in his last 2 innings, and Fogg has struck out back-to-back hitters in the 6th. So now Sledge. Six hits for San Diego tonight. Four of the hits by left-handed batters. We talked about how lefties have had more success against Josh Fogg historically. Very nice play in the stands.
That's why you always bring your glove to the ballpark, folks. I'm telling you.
Look at Resendez down there. He tried to interfere. I love it when an adult tries to get in the way and the kid still makes the play. Two balls and a strike to count to Termel Sledge. 2 gone, bases empty. Bottom of the 6th inning. San Diego down a run.
Hey.
And he got him. Doggone. That's the second hit batsman tonight by Josh Fogg. And that was a fastball.
Well, when you don't throw that hard, Matt, you have to throw inside. Marcus Giles got hit by a pitch earlier. Now trying to locate the fastball in right on the outside of the right knee, and that's got to hurt. Oh, yeah. But you just can't consistently trying to have the baseball catch the plate and consistently get guys out. You're going to have to move their feet a little bit. And with that said, the ball's going to get inside a little bit, and you're going to hit batters.
It's the 3rd hit batsman of the series by Rocky pitching. Mike Cameron was hit last night.
Well, last year for Fogg, he hit 6 batters. The year before 6. And in 04, he hit 8.
So now Rob Bowen. Remember the spring training history between these two teams this past Cactus League campaign. Troy Tulowitzki got hit by Doug Brocail. Tempers flared. Benches cleared. Got a little huffy and puffy. Matt Holliday got hit in the next matchup between these two teams.
2-1 ball game. That just got away from him.
I would agree.
He doesn't want to put on a base runner.
It's the first thing you think of, though. Given what happened in the spring. You might be wrong, but it does pop into your mind. Tell me you didn't think of it?
I didn't.
That's because you were looking at your comic books over there.
No, actually, I was analyzing the pitch selection by Fogg.
Bowen bounces it out to Carroll at second base, and the side's retired. We played 6 complete downtown tonight. A well-pitched affair and a 2-1 lead for the Rockies. 2-1 Colorado. We go to the top of the 7th inning. The Padres' first Petco Park meeting with the Dodgers is coming up later this month, and Trevor Hoffman tells us what's happening at the ballpark on April 27th.
Hey fans, Friday, April 27th, we take on the Dodgers at 7:05. Come to the park and get one of my Trevor Time desk clocks.
Get your tickets at Padres.com. That's Trevor Time desk clocks presented by Bank of America. Garrett Atkins leads things off in the top of the 7th inning. Atkins, Helton, and Holiday here for the Rockies. Atkins 0 for 2 tonight. David Wells has thrown 78 pitches this evening. Doug Brocail was up in relief of him earlier, but it looks like they'll give David an opportunity to at least open this 7th. Padres bullpen still busy. Brocail was up earlier, and it looks like Doug Brocail still throwing to stay loose.
You know, there's an art to staying ready, getting ready, and staying ready. Doug Brocail has been around the block. This ain't his first rodeo.
Into center field, and a base hit for Garrett Atkins. Beyond the Box Score is brought to you by the new Seaside Buick Pontiac GMC. Earlier today, Atlanta beat the Mets. Boy, the Mets kicked it around all over the place this afternoon. They have played a couple of shoddy defense afternoons. John Smoltz best his old buddy Tom Glavine there. And if you tuned into Fox earlier today, you saw the Dodgers beat the Giants for the 2nd straight. Derek Lowe over Russ Ortiz in that one in San Francisco. Here's Todd Helton now with a base runner aboard and nobody out. Helton's just 1 for 5 in the series. And the slow breaking ball's taken for a strike, 1-1.
See the look. See the look that he's giving Bill Hahn, the home plate umpire? Like, dude, come on, shake yourself. Look, he's still shaking his head. I thought that was a pretty good breaking ball. Might have caught it low, but it definitely goes through the strike zone.
1-1 pitch is whacked into left. Sledge on the move and making the catch.
See if he says anything to Bill Hahn when he goes back towards the Rockies dugout. This is the curveball I was talking about via the pitch track. You know, I think that catches the top of the knees. The definitely breaks the plate. I think that's a strike.
I would agree.
You don't have to yell at me.
Here's Matt Holliday now. 1 out, 1 on. Holliday's 0 for 2 tonight. Tomorrow it's back to the #1 starters for both the Rockies and Padres as Aaron Cook gets Jake Peavy in the Easter Sunday 105 start. Boomer up to 84 pitches and counting. We'll go on the air tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And we'll have your Easter Sunday matchup tomorrow here on Channel 4. Couple of fastballs to Holliday, has him 1-1. Jeff Baker on deck for the Rockies as Holliday fouls that one back.
Matty, it is a cool night tonight, and I guess game time temperature was what, low 60s, high 50s maybe? 54 to be exact. And you know what? I think it might be a tough indication this year to find out how hard guys are actually working out there. You know, they got that new fabric for the hats. Not supposed to retain the sweat as you look at David Wells. Cool as a cucumber. Remember the old wool hats?
Yeah, that's, you make a good point. Later on in the summer when it gets hot, got him. Boy, Wells kept Matt Holliday off balance that entire at-bat. 2 fastballs and then breaking pitches. He struck him out with a curveball.
That's a nice-looking breaking ball. The sharp breaking out of the zone, but the righty hitter against the lefty pitcher, that ball is coming from the opposite side, opposite angle than a righty, so you get a good look at it. It looks so inviting. Looks like a big, fat pitch, but it's the great location that gets the hitter to swing over the top of it.
This is pretty amazing. Jeff Baker digs in now with 1 away. This is unofficial, but this is really something. David Wells tonight has struck out 4 batters. He's thrown 88 pitches. Only 4 pitches have been swung on and missed. 4 pitches. And they have been each of the strikeout pitches that he's thrown tonight. Like no swing and a miss to go 0-1.
Right.
No swing and a miss to go 2-2. That is a veteran hurler out there who knows exactly how to make a guy swing and miss when he needs it. Again, that's unofficial, but
so a lot of contact also being made.
Yeah, a lot of contact, but I mean,
no, I know exactly.
I know what you're saying. It's the kind of contact that doesn't hurt you.
Yeah, either a foul ball and the strikes. Obviously, a lot of them are taken strikes too.
And I seem to have offended our statistician Mike Trussell when I disclaimed that by saying it was unofficial. He thinks that if he does it, it's official.
We'll let him know.
Baker lines to left. Sledge cuts it off quickly. Atkins trying to wrap around, and he'll do so. So runners at the corners now with 2 away.
Looked like Termel Sledge was kind of telling himself, maybe I should try to throw to third base and get Atkins. But you know what? Rather than going to third base to try to get him, you keep that runner at first. Now, in the event of a 2-out hit, it's just 1 run rather than a possible 2 runs.
We're going to have a pitching change. That's going to be offered David Wells. Doug Brocale had been queued up for a while. This pitching change is brought to you by Seaside Buick Pontiac GMC, exceeding expectations for over 40 years. Boomer gone after 6 2/3. We'll be right back. Great start tonight by David Wells. He's removed in the 7th with 2 out and 2 on. The 2 runners aboard, of course, his responsibility, but he leaves behind just a 1-run deficit as he hands the ball off to fellow veteran Doug Brocale.
Nothing better for a reliever to come into a ball game and pick up your starters and leave those base runners out on the bases, I should say. And Doug Brocale will be the first one to tell you 1 or 2 pitches to try to get out of this mess and leave it at 2-1.
Jose Cruz Jr. takes over in left for Termel Sledge. That's the double switch that brings Brocale in. Troy Tulowitzki, the batter. Tulowitzki singled and scored one of the 2 runs in the 3rd. 1-1. Doug Brocale made his first appearance of the year in San Francisco in the finale of that 3-game series on Thursday. Worked an inning and a 3rd. Did not allow a run. Struck out a batter and walked 1.
Matty, I think what you just mentioned earlier is right here in front of us. Wasn't it Brocale that hit Tulowitzki in spring training that's started the whole beanball thing?
It was.
But once again, game on the line, 2-1. You're not going. Doug Brocale wants to get Tulowitzki out.
Right. Spawn behind him here, 3-1. Chris Iannetta, the catcher, scheduled to bat next. Big hold situation here in the top of the 7th. Broke trying to keep it a 1-run ball game. The 3-1 home. He lost him on ball 4. And you know, not such a bad thing either. You fall behind a guy with a little pop like Tulowitzki. Why give in, and why not take a chance with Chris Iannetta, who's 0 for his last 9? So from the young shortstop to the young catcher with the bases loaded. Backs him up with a strike. This matchup, when it gets to the hands of the bullpens, is rather lopsided on paper. 0-2 to Iannetta. The past couple of years, as good as San Diego's bullpen has been, it's been a weakness of the Rockies, and 2007 has started out the same way. Through 4 games, the Padres bullpen has not yielded a run. Colorado's bullpen has allowed runs in each of their first 4 games.
So happy to see the guys out of the pen pounding in the strike zone and getting great results. And also only 2 walks in those 13 1/3 innings going into tonight's game. 2 free passes. I know you and I are all about free, Matty, but that's one free thing we don't want to see.
Boomer sticking around to watch the conclusion, at the very least, the conclusion of the top of the 7th.
And from a pitcher standpoint, starter pitcher standpoint, David Wells will be happy if Brocail can leave those runners out there, and then the Padres come back and try to get a victory for Doug Brocail out of the pen.
David Wells and bizarro David Wells. Iannetta sends a fly ball into right. This should be playable for Giles in foul territory. He retires the side. Get up and stretch. It's still a 1-run ball game downtown. Bottom of the 7th inning, it's 2-1 Rockies as we take a look at our Esurance comparison of the game. Get your auto insurance quote and compare rates instantly at esurance.com. The 06 Rockies, one of only 4 teams with 2 or more players recording 100 or more runs batted in last year. Puts them in pretty good company. Matt Holliday and Garrett Atkins, each north of the century mark in runs batted in.
Well, you can't beat fun at the old ballpark, huh?
That'd be a lot more fun to win one on opening night. Military opening night, that is. You know, last season, these numbers likely won't come as a surprise to fans. Padres just did a lot more offensively in the afternoon. These numbers really exaggerated here at Petco Park, but for the season, they hit better, they slugged better, and they got on base more often during day games.
The majority of the guys that I talk to playing big league baseball say they just see the ball better during the daytime, and plus the ball has a tendency to travel a little bit better during the day also, especially here.
Gunnery Sergeant Russell O'Brien. I think the Pods lost in the camouflage last year, didn't they?
They usually document that in the media guide, don't they?
Steve Finley has established an unusual record of sorts. As a Rocky this year, he has now played for every team in the National League West. He takes over in right field. Jose Cruz Jr. leads off for San Diego, the number 9 batter. Cruz, then Giles and Giles. Drops down. And Jose bunts foul. Both of the runs batted in for Jose came in the opener on Tuesday in San Francisco. Here's the 1-1. Josh Fogg up over 90 pitches, 94 and counting. He has been impressive tonight. Only a run on 6 hits allowed to San Diego. All of them singles except for the Branyan home run in the 4th. 2-2.
You know, I'm thinking of that defensive change with Steve Finley now out in right field. Finley is straight left hitter. And when you look at the Padres bullpen, no lefties. So he will be inserted in that slot. From here on out, he will face nothing but right-handed pitching.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Jose Cruz Jr. Struck him out. The slider takes care of Cruz. The 3rd strikeout of the ball game for Josh Fogg. And back to Marcus Giles, who has singled, been hit by a pitch, and stolen a base tonight. The Colorado bullpen is busy. Marcus yanks it into the corner and foul in left field.
Out in front of it just a little bit too much.
So 1 ball and 1 strike to Giles. Left-hander Jeremy Affeldt is up in the Rockies bullpen. Affeldt on the left of your screen. Ramon Ramirez is also up. Opportunities have been few and far between again tonight. A home run and 5 singles.
You know, it's unbelievable, Matty. The first time last inning for Colorado in the 7th was the first time that they let runners being stranded on the bases. 2 of them.
Ball 4, and that's the first walk by Rocky pitching in 2.5 games. One out, 1 on now for Brian Giles, and here comes Clint Hurdle. He wants his left-hander Jeremy Affeldt. So Fogg gone after 6 1/3. A Rockies pitching change, and we'll be right back. Jeremy Affeldt, the new pitcher for the Rockies. Brian Giles digging in for San Diego. Runner at first, 1 away. A 1-run ball game late downtown tonight as Affeldt's first pitch to Giles misses down and away. Jeremy Affeldt was acquired from Kansas City around the trading deadline last year. And in his National League debut, his first go-around in the senior circuit, amassed an ERA of almost 7. For his career, entirely spent with the Kansas City Royals prior to the deal, he has better numbers as a reliever than as a starting pitcher, and he's done a lot of each.
And there's only 2 lefties in that bullpen. Brian Fuentes, the closer, and Affeldt. So your specialty lefty for a game like this late.
Lined into right field. One Giles will wrap another around to third. Runners at the corners.
Well, Brian Giles knows the scouting report on Jeremy Affeldt. What is that scouting report? 90 to 94 on the fastball Curveball, slider, and a changeup, and he got the fastball up, it looks like. It's some serious top hand.
Boy, that's way up, too, huh? It's around his neck.
A lot of times like that, a hitter will get underneath the ball and pop it up. Play right in front of Marcus Giles. Nice first and third action. Oh, we got action.
The bases are filled with July. Marcus at third, Bryant at first. Adrian Gonzalez picks on the first pitch, and he's going to tie the ball game. Here comes Marcus to score a 2-2 draw.
Baseball, baseball. Okay, you start off the inning by punching out. Draw a walk. Nice little hit, first to third action, and then early in the count, not wanting to fall behind, he got something he can elevate. Nice job by Adrian Gonzalez to get that run home.
It's going to be all for Jeremy Affeldt. Ramon Ramirez was up a moment ago, and they're going to go his way now to pitch to Mike Cameron with a runner at first. The tying run in and 2 away. Another pitching change, and we'll be right back. Right-hander Ramon Ramirez is the new Rocky pitcher. His numbers are brought to you by Mission Federal Credit Union. Open a high-yield checking account today. 25-year-old Ramon Ramirez appeared on the Rockies opening day roster for the first time in his career. This is his third appearance of the season already. In a couple of games, he's just given up a base hit. And last year was really used quite often. 61 appearances and almost 70 innings out of the Rockies bullpen.
And he's a good one, Matty. Last year he held right-handed batters to a 194 average. That's exactly what Clint Hurdle wants right here. Righty on righty to get out of this 2-2 tie with the runner on.
Sacrifice fly ball by Adrian Gonzalez has tied it here in the 7th. It prevents Josh Fogg from earning a victory tonight. Jeremy Affeldt unable to hold the lead for him. 2 balls and no strikes to Mike Cameron. Khalil Green, the hottest Padre batter to start the year, waiting next. Oh, Mike loaded up on a fastball there, and he fouls it away. What was the first pitch that Ramirez threw him?
It looked like a little cutter or something, a little slider.
Cutter, fastball here.
Yeah.
I was going to Mike Cameron too many fastballs, he's going to get you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to say that Ramirez down in the bullpen, you know, they keep track of what's going on there, what the hitters are hitting, what the pitchers are throwing those hitters. I was going to wait one more pitch to see if he was going to mix in a third pitch, but nothing but hard fastballs and hard slider or a big cutter from Ramirez.
Nice strike on another fastball.
Nice little sink there. Hard.
In that setup capacity, if your relief duty is short enough, it's not as though you need 5-6 pitches. But I see what your point is. You know, show him another speed once at some point during the at-bat. See if he stays hard on him here with 2-2.
I mean, that's my philosophy. If you're a reliever, you want to have short, quick outs, right? If you have 3 pitches or 4 pitches. Number 3 and number 4 pitch, I think, are just going to be show-me pitches in the at-bat just to give the hitter a different look. You're going to want to try to get the guy out with your best sinker or your best slider if those are your good pitches.
Full count to Cameron. Giles off first, 2 away.
Think right field here.
Ryan runs and Cameron serves it into left field. Holiday coming on, it drops in front of him. It was a looper off the bat. He might have even broken his bat. And Mike Cameron's aboard on his second knock of the night, keeping things alive for Khalil Green.
Well, I thought Holiday had a chance to get this ball, but you're right, Matt, because of the broken bat off the end of the bat. That's a broken shillelagh. Takes a lot of the pop out of it. Boy, that ball landed closely to Holiday, didn't it? No? I know it's easy for me to sit up here and think that he may have had a chance to get that ball, but
Well, scored as a single for Mike.
gladly.
Here's Greeny. Hitless for the first time this season. The go-ahead run standing at third base. Runners at the corners with 2 away. Grounded to shortstop. And San Diego will settle with the 1 to tie. We've played 7 complete downtown tonight. Even at 2 apiece. Come on out to Petco Park with family and friends. Groups as small as 25 people can receive ticket discounts, a scoreboard welcome, and more. Reserve your group tickets today. Call 795-5500. Pitching change in the top of the 8th inning. Scott Linebrink will become the 3rd Padre to see the mound tonight. 73 games and a 3.57 earned run average last year. Scotty got to camp this year lighter and with a livelier fastball. And so far in just an appearance, Linebrink has been as good as advertised. Allowed a hit and struck out a batter in 1 inning in San Francisco earlier this week.
We're talking with Darren Balsley after camp broke that Scott Linebrink, as you mentioned, dropped some LBs, getting that fastball at about 96, 97. You can just tell by looking at him. Sure, Brian Perlman had to order some new pants for him over the offseason, huh?
Brad Hopp leads things off in the Colorado 8th. Hopp pinch hitting in the 9th spot, so it's the left-handed hitting Hopp, then Taveras and Carroll. Hopp lines out to right field, and 1 gone for Linebrink to open the 8th inning. Stay with us for the Lexus postgame show immediately following play-by-play on Channel 4 tonight. John Weisbarth and Bob Scanlon will break down tonight's between the Rockies and Padres. This is going to be the 2nd time in 5 days that Scans and Midnight are going to have to do a Lexus postgame show with fireworks blasting over their heads.
That's right.
Here's Taveras now with 1 away. Back to Linebrink. 2 quick outs for Scotty.
Matty, if you're in the market for like a Rhino or a Polaris, those big 4-wheel golf carts, Motor World, the Belcajones got them. Watercraft motorcycles, but right now, Polaris Rangers are on sale. Best deal in town, Motor World. You tell them I sent you. 315 North Magnolia in El Cajon. Moto World.
Jamie Carroll, the batter now, with the bases empty and 2 away. For Scott Linebrink, guy who's been with us here in San Diego now for a few years, he has appeared in a lot of games in his brief tenure as a Friar. Tonight's is his 264th appearance as a Padre. That ties him with Randy Jones for 5th on the all-time franchise list. There are 2 things that are amazing about that. It's amazing that Randy Jones, a starting pitcher, is 5th on the all-time appearances list. It's just as amazing that Scott Linebrink, in just a short period of time, has risen that high on the chart. We bemoan the relative lack of franchise history here a lot. You know, the fact that the Padres in 40 years of existence, they don't have all-time franchise leaders with huge numbers that are seemingly insurmountable. It's because the past history of this franchise had been so transient. Players coming and going all the time.
A lot of turnover.
And outside guys like Tony Gwynn, Randy Jones, and a handful of others, there was a new cast of characters in here virtually every year. Well, we can tell you gladly that those days seem to be gone. There's much more of a commitment to build something and keep it good for the long term these days here. 3 balls and 2 strikes the count to Jamie Carroll. On a hop for Green. And a 1-2-3-8 for Scott Linebrink. To the last of the 8th. Branyan leading off with the Padres and Rockies tied at 2. Visit Padres.com to get tickets, get directions to Petco Park, and the latest news on your favorite Padres. You can also sign up for the Friar Wire, the official email newsletter of the Padres. Padres baseball, experience it. 40,000 plus experiencing a closely played ball game tonight. 40,504 our official attendance as Manny Corpus takes over on the mound here in the bottom of the 8th.
Now, while Corpus came in for a third of an inning last night, it was in the 7th inning. He got the old 2-3 play when he faced Paul McAnulty.
Russell Branyan leads off for San Diego. And on the first pitch, it's a high fly ball behind second base. Tulowitzki puts the glove to it, and there's one away here in the 8th. One away now for the pinch hitter, Jeff Blum. Blum batting in the pitcher's spot. And Manny Corpus retiring Branyan with just 1 pitch. And the first pitch to Jeff Blum misses inside. Blummer made a pinch hitting appearance in San Francisco on Thursday. This is just his 2nd at bat of the season. Had a very good spring. Hit .326, 3 home runs, 13 runs batted in 19 spring games.
You know, even his outs were hit hard, Matty.
And Jeff will be among the first to tell you he is not a strong April starter. He was really encouraged by the good spring campaign. Late on a fastball, but you know, therein lie one of the difficulties with being an F trooper. You get into 19 games, you have a great spring, the opening bell sounds, and then you're in your platoon role, and it's easy to lose whatever you felt like you had in the Cactus League.
It's just always amazed me, bench players who have stuck around for a long time, especially in the pinch hitting role, after sitting around 7-8 innings, coming off the bench and trying to get a knock.
2 gone as he strikes out. 2 quick outs for Manny Corpus in relief, and now it's the switch hitting catcher Rob Bowen.
And usually when you're in that role, Matty, it's against the guy who's a darn good setup guy or the closer. So that makes matters even worse or tougher.
Remember talking to Jeff after he returned to the Padres from his brief stay with the White Sox, and he, you know, it wasn't the first time we had heard it, but when you go from a role player in the National League to being a role player in the American League, it's like going from being an NBA starter to the proverbial 11th man. There aren't as many opportunities as an American League role player.
Russell Branyan was talking about that before the game. As a bench player in the American League, you'll sit there, you'll rot for 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah,
on the bench.
Rob Bowen in from the left side. Hit almost 100 points higher left-handed last year. In front of Corpus, 2-0.
Corpus pitching a little backwards. Fastball count 2-0. He flips up a little slide piece right down the middle.
That is all Bob Apodaca, the Rockies' very fine pitching coach. He did such a great job with Jason Hirsch in the spring. He's preached that for a long time, Bob Apodaca, whether a pitching coach here or Milwaukee or New York or wherever. Three balls and a strike to count to Rob Bowen. It was around a year ago, early in the season 2006, when Rob hit his first home run of the season. It was a walk-off dinger in the 10th inning of a game against the Chicago Cubs. Bases empty here with 2 gone. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Rob Bowen. A 2-2 tie last of the 8th and a called strike 3. Manny Corpus punches out 2 en route to a perfect 8th. We're heading to the 9th. Tied 2 apiece. They're shooting off fireworks after tonight's with the Rockies. And in case you miss it tonight, Jake Peavy's along to tell us that fireworks will be shot off again later this month.
Be here when we take on the Dodgers April 28th at 7:05. And stay after the game for the fireworks show.
Don't miss family fireworks presented by Bank of America. Visit Padres.com for tickets. That's Saturday, April 28th against the Dodgers. Jake will be getting the Easter Sunday assignment tomorrow as he matches up against sinker baller Aaron Cook. Be a good one tomorrow afternoon, Mudcat.
Yes, it will. Hopefully a lot of sunshine. It's been overcast tonight. As we take a look at Trevor Hoffman coming in for the 9th.
Not technically Trevor time, a non-save Hoffman appearance in the 9th tonight. Buddy Black wanting to win this thing in regulation.
Yeah, the save is out the window right now as we go in the top of the 9th. Although Trevor can get a win, complete this inning, and then score in the 9th.
Garrett Atkins leads it off against Hoffman. Atkins, Helton, and Holiday for the Rockies. This part of the order tonight's just 2 for 9, but this part of the order has had some success against Trevor Hoffman. But Todd Helton in particular, 14 for 22. Come on. A ball and 2 strikes on the Colorado third baseman. Garrett Atkins is 1 for 3 tonight. David Wells started 6 2/3 by Boomer, pitched very well. Allowed just 2 runs in his 6 2/3 of work. Doug Brocail faced a batter. Faced 2 batters actually, a third of an inning. A scoreless inning by Scott Linebrink. And now Trevor in the 9th, tied. There was a lot written when Buddy Black was hired in terms of how it'll affect decision making, how it'll affect certain players in certain phases of what the Padres have done successfully or unsuccessfully the past couple of years. I think the most interesting case study comes with Trevor Hoffman because Bruce Bochy and Trevor Hoffman had such a good working relationship. Changeup swung on a miss. We know that Boch has been so loyal to Trevor over the years and vice versa. There was some speculation as to whether Buddy Black would use Trevor any differently. And the current Padre manager answered that speculation by saying, no, he's our closer.
Yeah, why mess up a good thing, huh?
He'll try to be diplomatic in when to use Trevor. He's going to get the lion's share of save opportunities for sure. He's the stopper. But Buddy Black is a former pitcher and longtime pitching coach as well. Isn't going to run Trevor out there until he's rubber armed.
Like Bobby Thigpen.
So the answer to it is it's going to be the same situation. One and one to Todd Helton, who, as we talked about a moment ago, has had some real unbelievable success against Trevor over the years.
See Todd Helton trying to tell himself to try to hit the top half of that baseball, hit down on it. It looks like he had a little dip in that head of the bat, went dip and then up underneath that hanging breaking ball from Trevor. I think if you ask Trevor, hey, do you think that was too good of a pitch on that curveball, he may agree. But the count now in his favor with 1 and 2.
When the Padres bat in the last of the ninth, it'll be Cruz, Giles, and Giles. And the two Giles brothers at the top of the order have been on base all night. Eight plate appearances. And the Giles boys have been on base 5 times.
Now Trevor trying to double up on Todd Helton with the fastballs in.
Up the middle and through. Helton's got his second hit of the night.
Well, Trevor Hoffman throws a lot of changeups. Well, sometimes it's a changeup off the bat. That looked like it was towards the end of the bat. And it will surprise the pitcher. You think it's a hot smash. You put your glove out there, and before you know it, the glove's not touching the ball, and then the ball goes by you. So it's kind of one of those frustrating things to where, gosh, I maybe should have gotten the glove on the ball there.
There's Matt Holliday now with the runner aboard, and at the other end of the spectrum is Matt Holliday's career line against Trevor Hoffman, just 1 for 10. Hitless tonight, 0 for 3. Holliday has homered in 2 straight. Trevor trying to keep him cool tonight. Last year, fans recall, and we talked about it a lot during our spring telecasts this year, what great success the Padres had in one-run games. Only the Mets were better in such contests. And on the appeal, they say Holliday swung the bat. He's behind 1-2 now.
Oh, if he hits that, it's a double.
Ball and 2 strikes on Holliday. There's no easy explanation when you're trying to rationalize why the Padres were so good in one-run games, yet so average in extra innings.
I've got a philosophy behind that.
What is it?
Bullpen, extra innings. You've probably already utilized your middle gap guys, and nothing against the other guys that throw out of the bullpen. Yeah!
How about that?
Who cares about my story?
5 to 4 to 3. Well, you don't turn a double play any prettier than this. On a classic edition of Forefront, meet Bob Chandler, the longtime San Diego sports announcer. Forefront tomorrow at 6:30 and 8:30. Log on to 4sd.com for more information. Last of the ninth, the 2-2 tie. Jose Cruz Jr. leads it off for San Diego. Cruz, Giles, and Giles against Manny Corpus. Corpus pitched a 1-2 3/8 that included a couple of impressive strikeouts. Jose Cruz Jr. entered in a double switch and has since struck out in his one and only plate appearance.
You know, I look at Corpus in his repertoire. We've seen the hard sinker. We've seen the sweeping slider. He tries to really keep the ball down like any pitcher would want to do. Only 8 walks last year in Colorado. In those 35 games, that's over 32 1/3.
That's into left center field. And the winning run's aboard to start the ninth.
I broke it out even before the inning started, Matty. It's appropriate time to break out the shillelagh. I'm telling you. It's time.
Marcus Giles tonight, 1 for 2. He's been hit by a pitch and walked. The winning run at first, nobody out. Both the Rockies and Padres were good in one-run games last year. We've talked about San Diego, 30-22. The Rockies didn't play in nearly as many, yet they had a good winning percentage in such contests. 8 wins, 4 losses. Brian Giles waiting on deck. Marcus bunting again, puts it into a great spot. Only one play, and now the winning run moves into scoring position with 1 away.
Perfectly executed by Marcus Giles. Deadens the ball perfectly down the first base line where the first baseman, Helton, is holding on the runner. You've got the third baseman crashing. You want to draw that guy off the bag. And once again, always hustling down the line. If they bobble it, it's a first and second situation with nobody out. But that winning run right out there at second base.
Marcus was really never called on to sacrifice a lot in Atlanta. Only 5 sacrifice bunts last year. Brian Giles will be intentionally walked. So that's going to put runners at first and second, set up the Rockies for the double play, and set up Adrian Gonzalez to be the hero.
How many times have you seen a pitcher throw a ball back to the screen on an intentional walk? I know where you can take an intentional walk.
Take a walk down to any one of the 6 Massey Nissan locations in San Diego County: Escondido, Oceanside, El Cajon, National City, Kearney Mesa, or Poway. You can take a walk to Massey Nissan and you won't get taken for a ride. They're real pros. They've been in San Diego since 1982. Massey Nissan.
They're the best, man.
So Giles is aboard. Adrian tonight has singled and driven in a run with a sac fly. A base hit wins it here in the 9th.
Matty, just noticed the defense. See how the outfield playing kind of shallow on the event of a ground ball through the hole. They want to try to throw them out. So a deep fly ball with some authority could be to the wall and the game winner.
A deep drive into left field. Holiday was playing shallow with his numbers to the infield, and San Diego wins it. That didn't take Adrian Gonzalez long.
Time to put another notch into the shillelagh.
Last year's team MVP with 2 RBIs tonight, including the game winner here in the last of the 9th. The Padres come back from a 2-0 deficit to defeat the Rockies this evening, 3-2 San Diego. Mudd and I are back right after this.